Okay, so all of this advice pertains to shooting people beyond 1,000 meters. So the single most important thing when shooting people beyond 1,000 meters is understanding this little icon at the bottom that says 1,000 meters. So that is your range adjustment on the scope. Every long-range sniper rifle scope has it. And as you can see, I'm changing the range because this helicopter is closer than 1,000 meters. And I'm tracking it because I actually want the sweet headshot, but it doesn't actually happen, so they jump out. And then I realized that the range is much closer than 500 meters, so I adjust the scope. Now, I could have adjusted it to 200 or 300, and that would have been fine with this rifle, because it's a very good rifle that shoots pretty straight. And I'm ready for that guy who's hiding, and the range is nice and, tight. So this is the rifle I was using, the SRR-61. It has the least amount of bullet drop. It is one of the last... It's technically the last rifle that vanilla Battlefield 4 gives you. And I prefer to use the ballistic 40x scope when you're shooting people beyond 1,000 meters. And I like the variable zoom 14 times as opposed to the rangefinder, which is that laser that tells you how far things are. The reason why I never take the range laser with me is because it doesn't range targets beyond 1,000 meters. So when you're long-range sniping, it's useless, and you're better off carrying the two scopes. The bipod is not necessary, but it's really helpful for, the point of this video. So this first target I'm shooting at with a very good high-powered rifle. I'm going to do a headshot, and I'm 90 meters away, and I have the scope zeroed in on the target. So it says 0 meters at the bottom. And when you're within 100 meters, you want to make sure the scope is zeroed, typically. And definitely with a good rifle. So for this second shot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim exactly in the same position as the first target. However, I'm going to grossly adjust the scope until the scope range that this target is 1,000 meters away. So I've zeroed in on it, and even though I should keep it on 0, I'm going to change it to 1,000, and I'm going to pull the trigger and see what happens. So it misses. It glitches out, but it misses is the point. The target actually is not hit. So I adjust it now to 500 meters. Keep in mind the target is 90 meters away. And that shot also misses. So it's not until I zero the scope that I will actually get the hit on this target. So this is one of those things where if you misuse it, you will never hit a target. Not at close range, not at long range. You will never hit a target. And it's not mandatory. You don't need to use this range adjustment. You could always compensate for bullet drop the old-fashioned way. However, when shooting targets beyond 1,000 meters, and with the low-powered rifles, like the ones it gives you at the beginning, that becomes very difficult because you literally have to aim the scope so high you can't even see the guy you're shooting at. So at that point, you have to use it. So without having a rangefinder, what I always recommend is do a placement shot to figure out, okay, is the bullet high or low? So at that point, I do the placement shot, make the adjustment, and it's dead on. So I now know that that target is 200 meters away. So anyone who goes on that roof later in the game, if I haven't moved positions, I know to put the scope at 200 meters, and it will be a perfect headshot. When you're actually long-range sniping, it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, because you're going to keep it at 500 meters, or exactly 1,000 meters, and it's going to be pretty much one of the two. Like if you're firing off a carrier, or on a mountain to a mountain in Operation Firestorm. I guess in Parasol Storm, it would be from the carrier. So right here, it becomes very predictable that the bullet's going to land low because I go from 200 meters to 0 meters on the range adjustment on the scope. So it's one of those things where you really should go to the test range and play around with it if you're not familiar with the mechanic I'm discussing. I'm now going back to a beginner sniper rifle, and I'm going to put on the exact same optics and equipment that I had for the nice one. And we're going to go through a very similar test. Now, the range of this will be 19 meters further, because I wasn't super paying attention, actually, when I filmed this. So, it's a little further away, but for a sniper rifle, I'm sorry, it's 100 meters. It's very close. So, I got the scope zeroed, I fire, and I'm going to do the same thing on the second target because I want to see where the bullets land. Now, the bullets land low, So I'm going to adjust the scope like I did with the previous rifle, and I want to see where the bullets land at that point, aiming at the exact same spot. So keep in mind I've aimed at this exact center bullseye the entire time, but I've only adjusted the scope, and the bullets are landing in drastically different spots. And also with this rifle, it's higher, so this is one of those things where at close range with a mediocre sniper rifle, you really have no reason to mess with the range, just keep it at 0. You're just wasting your time, because either way you're going to compensate. You're either going to compensate high, or you're going to compensate low. With the premium sniper rifles, the ones that have very little bullet drop, because they have so little bullet drop, it almost doesn't matter if you're inaccurate with the rangefinder. And that's kind of the, cruel reality with it. So these shots are ranged out to 1,000 meters, and as you can see, they land drastically above the target. So it's even higher with these beginner sniper rifles because the bullet drop is so much more severe. So it's one of those things where if you screw this up in the early days, it's really going to be a problem. But I did get actual 1,000-meter headshots with that sniper rifle before I even had the 40-time scope. I just really needed the bipod. But the 40-time scope is very helpful when you're shooting people beyond 1,000 meters, and even the 20-time scope, it feels like you're shooting at ants. But with the 40-time scope, when you're looking out beyond 1,000 meters, targets seem pretty reasonably sized. So you definitely can see where the bullets are landing, and that is very helpful, because with the 20-time scope, you can't see where the bullets are landing. So when you finally get the 40-time scope and the bipod and all this equipment, I do recommend easing into long-range sniping by doing it from the carrier. And this is Gulf of Oman, which is new from Second Assault. And I know from previous playing around in this level that these buildings I'm aiming at are beyond 1,000 meters. So I have the scope set to 1,000 meters, I see this sniper, and I just kind of guess I need to aim a little high, and it's a hit. So he relocates, I adjust my aim, that's the second shot, and we get the headshot. And he's beyond 1,100 meters, so it's a pretty far shot. And just in the nick of time, because the levolution is happening, and levolution. Sometimes levolution is switching a light switch, but other times it's explosions. But I hope that was helpful, and there will be more down the road.